So much flapping. Oh, here they come again! Ah! Gadzooks! The birds is back! Oh, you beaked brutes, get back! Yeah, that's more or less what I expected from the birds live on stage. But instead I learned that this script is based on the short story and that the production drew inspiration not from Hitchcock, but from apocalyptic horror, video games, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Stick around and we'll examine how this cast used intimacy to create urgency and how the director used the fourth wall to envelop the audience rather than distance them. The Cabrillo Playhouse in San Clemente, California was once an ordinary house, that people lived in. The community decided that they needed a theater, so they converted it to an intimate 66-seater. Without effort from the community, this theater doesn't exist. And of course, the same is true of the shows that have been running there for decades. If you can't tell, I'm kind of building to something here. Cabrillo is now, interestingly enough, running a show that explores what happens when a community breaks down and cooperation fails. And in a final layer of irony, said show is being presented by a group of people who instantly formed a collective bond.
We all clicked instantly at the first table read. Eric did a great job of establishing what his vision was for the show and what message we wanted to share through the story. And we all just clicked. I think we all understood what our jobs were, and we're going out there and we're delivering. And it makes it so easy working with such talented people that it's not hard for me to respond and work with them and honestly feel like we are kind of this found family in this abandoned house on it. And it's similar to how we are. We've never worked with each other before, and we all just really clicked and said, let's make this work. So
I had one girl that is a friend of mine. She read opposite of Mimi, the actress that I cast in the role of Julia. And as they left the audition, I was like, okay, cool. Thank you very much. You can wait in the hallway. I got a message from my friend that was reading with them, and it just said, if you do not cast this person, I lose all respect for you.
I actually didn't meet Lauren or Zach during the audition process. I auditioned on the second day with Jay, so we were together, I met her, and then we didn't have any callbacks. So the first time I met them was the first day of rehearsal. We had no chemistry reads or anything like that. And then we read the show all the way through for the first time, and I was like, damn, we didn't need we didn't need that. We didn't need chemistry reads or callbacks because we just clicked like very quickly.
I've done a couple shows with Eric before. He is fantastic. I will always do. He's one of those people that he can call me and say, I need you, and I'll be there in a heartbeat. And then the rest of the people in the show I actually met doing the show, and we clicked instantly. We all knew exactly what we wanted done. We knew exactly what we could bring to the table, and we kind of brought this. We meshed really, really well, and we still do. And it's just these are gonna be my friends for a while.
When I reached out to Eric, the director, about this video, I sort of just assumed this production would be a spoof of the Hitchcock film. Instead, he and the cast quickly told me that the play was based on the original short story, as was the Hitchcock film, ironically. But unlike that classic piece of cult cinema, the original tale is dark, brooding, intimate, and character-driven.
It is much more about how humans face each other in times of disaster, and how hard you have to try to trust people and work with them as opposed to letting baser instincts rule. I think the more we've worked on this play, the more that has become scarier to me, and I think that'll surprise people too. It's not a monster movie. It is a cautionary tale, maybe.
I can't train birds in a theater and be like, all right, now the birds attack. So the birds aren't so much the threat as they are the catalyst. The real threat, in my mind, is what do we become when society fails, when there are no more rules or anyone to tell you what's right and what's wrong. What do we ultimately become? And it's the old expression, perhaps man was the real monster all along.
The Hitchcock movie is in the world. It's out on the streets of the town. It's The birds are a physical threat. You know, there's the famous phone booth scene. There's all that stuff. We are set only in one house, and the birds are more of a hindrance. They're not necessarily physically there, because, I mean, how do you do birds on a stage and not be cheesy or sticky or stuff? But the birds are definitely a presence, and they just ramp up the tension. But as opposed to the movie, the play is about, in the end of the world, when you have everybody trapped in tight locations, and one person is not trustworthy, what happens?
Like, obviously, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds is very heavy centered on the birds themselves, the apocalypse itself. But this show is more that psychological aspect of you're trapped in a really small, confined space with two other people for an extended period of time. What does that do to a person? And it's just interesting. Like, it's just, especially because, I mean, Nat, Diane, and Julia are all completely different people from completely different lives. And so seeing them interact in this high stressed environment in such a small space is like, it's really interesting. It's like, it's spooky. I like it. It's very fun.
But of course, a script isn't a play. A play needs interpretation, and this interpretation was fascinating. The story itself seems kind of self-contained and small and intimate. I mentioned a couple of times that it reminded me of Night of the Living Dead, and most of the cast agreed. That's why Eric and company drew inspiration for their interpretation from some rather unusual places.
I have been a big fan of many horror movies and video games, so I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from those. I'm taking inspiration from The Last of Us, both the game and the series, the Resident Evil franchise, Silent Hill, the 28 Days / 28 Years Later franchise, throwing them all into a blender and doing my best to hope to scare the audiences of Cabrillo.
Very much, it reminds me of those Twilight Zone episodes when it's the survival ones and we're thinking, oh, it's the aliens or the invaders outside. And it's more so as you see these survivors hunkered together, those are the scariest people many of the times. So it's really fun to explore that, especially when I've only seen it in those mediums before.
It's definitely giving 28 Days Later, it's giving Apocalypse, it's giving Walking Dead, it's giving everything like that. The Last of Us, like, very much so. I know that Eric was saying that a lot of like his inspiration atmospherically for the show was like Resident Evil, especially Biohazard, so 7, stuff like that. Like, just it's very like apocalyptic and like very much that of like being trapped in a small atmosphere during the apocalypse and not really knowing like what's going to happen next, and just living in the moment, especially like as people, we live such fast-paced lives and we're so used to like living and being like, what's next, and so having to stick in that moment for an extended period of time, live in that moment, is just not something we're programmed to do, like to slow down when you feel like you should be speeding up.
But that's what I'm really leaning in towards, is it's not the birds that are the threat, it's the people that you're trapped with that you don't know, that maybe you think you're getting close to, and then they show a different side to themselves. I am also drawing a lot of inspiration from something we all lived through, which is 2020, when we were all trapped in our houses, told we couldn't go out anywhere, and suddenly people that we had known for years start getting a little weird on us.
It focused more on how people interact together in the face of a larger problem, kind of like how I experienced COVID and quarantine. And I really liked that those psychological problems were much scarier than the monsters that the play itself proposes.
I mentioned that I originally thought this was a parody, so it's kind of funny that the director and 3 out of 4 of the cast members describe themselves as having a more comedic background. I run a spooky theater company, and yet, honestly, comedy is my comfort zone. So I think there are some similarities when you think about it. Both a laugh and a scream are born from surprise, from the unexpected. So maybe comedy is a good basis for horror.
There is a reason that Bill Hader went from doing SNL to Barry, which slowly turned into a bit of a nightmare show as it went on, or famously Jordan Peele doing Key and Peele sketches, and then he went and did Get Out and Us and Nope and all those wonderful films. So it is interesting finding the build-up.
This is my second show here at Cabrillo Playhouse. I was previously in Breaking Up is Hard to Do, so very different show, very lighthearted, great songs by Neil Sedaka, and so this is very different.
I've always been known with my friend group. I've done a lot of shows, and I'm always known for my friend group, and even like people who just see me as being like the comedic actor. I'm not really the one that people think of when they think of drama. But I'm a huge fan of Hitchcock. I'm a huge fan of like horror movies and scary movies and thrillers and all that. And when I heard about this audition, I was like, you know, I've done some shows at the Cabrillo, and I gotta at least try for this role.
Similarities between like comedy for me rests all in the situation. If you can specifically identify what the situation is and why it's funny, you don't have to do much acting. It's the same for like making someone laugh and making someone feel scared is a result. You can't be going for, I can't just act scared and expect you to feel anything. But if you can identify what the situation is and why that is scary, you just act in that situation and hopefully as truthfully as possible and have the audience be like, oh yeah, that was horrible. That would be awful.
I mean, I love everything horror. I love all the spooky things. I do Halloween Horror Nights in the fall, and I love to like go scare at other places. I love haunts. So when I saw the notice, I only live like 20 minutes away from here, and so I was like, love the birds, love Daphne du Maurier. So this just was like, yeah, it was just something that I was interested in, and I actually hadn't read the script until after I was cast, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because when I got to sit down and like read the material fresh here during the auditions, it was like, this is spooky. It's good. It's more the psychological aspect than like the actual birds aspect, and I really like it. It's really cool.
It's not this Playhouse's usual shtick, and I think that it's really cool and brave of them to do a show like this, and I'm really hoping it succeeds as well as I think it should, because I would love to do more like this, because this Playhouse is perfect for a show like this.
The venue itself adds an interesting element. Intimate settings seem to be perfect for horror. Check out our videos on Empanada Loca and Night of the Living Dead for more on that. And this show seems like a natural fit for a smaller theater. The story is about people who feel trapped in more ways than one, and the confined space will put the audience right in the action. I crashed their tech rehearsal and saw that the director, Eric, was pasting graffiti on the wall to further heighten the immersion. I also got a small sample of the sound design and how that was being used to effectively make me feel like I was trapped in a cabin with killer birds closing in.
It is a small house, it is very intimate, but I think that means we're allowed a little bit more like realism than is normally afforded in the theater. Like, the audience is very close. The back of the house is maybe like 30 feet. Like, that means we can be a little bit more subtle and real. We could speak a little bit softer, and also feels like they're kind of closed in with us. Like the whole play takes place alone in this house, and if the audience can't escape from that either, they're almost there with us, trapped with no escape, figuring out how to survive themselves as well.
I personally love it. This is a bit different since my last performance, since the audience was a participating character in the show, so I could very much acknowledge their presence and work with them. In this one, it is very much, there is that fourth wall, and we're not breaking it. We want to add that claustrophobia of the stage, of the house that's up there. But in my opinion, knowing that there's eyes watching, I almost have this mentality like they're the birds outside the house just waiting to get in. And that's kind of my mentality of thinking the closeness, the claustrophobia, and the intimacy of this playhouse. The audience is very much the birds trying to get into our environment and observe it.
Sound plays a big, not only do the bird sounds, but also there's the occasional other sound effect from outside. There's radio broadcasts that get played during the show. And then we also there's transitions, and those have either like music that kind of like correlates to the scene before it or after it, and also just like in general music. Sound is definitely a major part of this. Lighting is definitely a major part of it. It's like a full theater production.
I feel like it's a high pressure situation because everyone's so close to you all the time, and everyone's cramped in that space because the stage is very cluttered, and like that's good. Like I know it's gonna help me personally to have like, I don't know, like, because obviously these people feel like they're being watched all the time anyway. Like this is not something that I can't work with and play with. So I want the audience to be uncomfortable and to be pushed and to be stressed, and I want them to make me feel that way too. So we're bouncing off of each other. Obviously not that I'm gonna like break the fourth wall or anything, but like I definitely think that it helps to be in a smaller venue and to have the audience like close like that.
Thanks to the Cabrillo Playhouse and to Eric for allowing me to film. Also, a thanks to Eric and the actors for gifting me some of their valuable time and allowing me to film rehearsal. Rehearsals are not a finished product, so allowing people to see them is extremely generous of them. And thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed it, let us know. Give it a like, a share. All that stuff helps the theater company get the word out about their work. And if you want to see more videos like this, well, consider subscribing. We do reviews on spooky theater, as you've just seen. We also do reviews on haunts, which are a type of immersive theater. I want to apologize for getting this video out so late. We got really busy preparing for our own show at Spooky Swap Meet. If anybody's interested in behind-the-scenes content of the stuff that we do, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, check out Cabrillo for their next show, and we'll see you next time. Until next time, support your local scare actor.